Happy Friday, everybody. Hope you are all having a great day and have some fun plans for this long weekend. I wanted to touch base on some form and technique things that I've been seeing, that a lot of our coaches have been seeing, and see if we can just dial in a few things, and maybe if I can explain something a little differently, it might hopefully, kind of get the light bulbs to go off and get a little better, whether it's a squat or a deadlift, to just make sure that you know what we're looking for, and maybe just getting a little visual for it will help you as well. So whether it is usually, for the squat, the deadlift, and RDL, we're looking at a few things. We first want to, you gotta get your setup right, and that's for all the moves, and your feet for the RDL, the deadlift, and the squat are pretty much going to be in the same position when it comes to the kettlebell. You're not gonna change too much. We wanna make sure that our stance isn't too wide for either one. Now, yes, barbell, sumo, or double bells, you're probably gonna get a little wider, but you don't wanna be at a point where you're not stable and you can't get a corkscrew in. So let me rewind it a second and go back into the corkscrew. What that means is, basically, we need to make sure, A, that your feet are planted into the ground, and that we're starting to get engagement through the butt muscles, okay? And that's for a squat, that's for deadlift, anytime you set up for one of those movements. So this is my stance for everything. It's slightly wider than my hips. Due to my structure, I am more comfortable with my feet turned out slightly. I'm not talking about here, because now if I go to squat or deadlift, my knees are no longer tracking my toes at all. They're collapsing in a little bit on the meniscus. We don't want that. But what I want is to make sure that you're basically trying to open a jar with your feet. So I take it, and you can see my feet, and I'm spreading the floor, or kind of opening up and engaging my glute muscles. I like to make sure that they are almost kind of firing like a rubber band, and I can feel those muscles starting to work. I'm also then grounded. I can feel my big toes are really grabbing the ground, the inside and the outside of my feet, and my heels. Now, depending on the cue and the person, I like to sometimes, for certain people, say that 90% of the weight on the heels, 10% big toe, so we're not shifting forward too much. Yes, it is okay in certain situations for the knee to go over the toe, but I just want to make sure for this, we're primarily focusing on getting the glute engagement. So when you're going to do that, and say I'm going to deadlift, so I'm going to send my hips back. As my knees, I like to look, whether squat or a deadlift, that are basically tracking my second and third toe, okay? What I don't want to see is, say that you come too narrow, and then you're trying to deadlift, and those knees are just coming out and coming out. I can tell you right now in this position, you can see that my knees are flying out, my toes are straight. I don't feel my glute muscles working at all, which is not a good thing. It's not going to be a strong base. It's not going to keep you safe or as strong as you could be. I also don't like it when I see this, and we're like, all right, let's squat. Oftentimes I see this a lot with sometimes previous dancers, ballet, cheerleaders, but this too is probably too much. I can't get an effective corkscrew, and I can't get my glutes to start engaging as well that I would like to for your setup. So we almost need to find that perfect medium, and we just want to make sure that our kneecap right here is, as we sit, second and third toe, and that is the biggest thing that we're looking at. Then from the side, sure, it is okay for certain people to, right, like we're sitting down, and you can see my knee comes over, right? Like, you're gonna see some coaches, and they're gonna say, don't let the knees go over toes, don't let them go over toes. Sure, yes, absolutely, I do not coach that. I like you to sit back. There are certain populations, and obviously when we walk, when we go downstairs, our knees do go over. There's no black and white when it comes to the fitness industry. Yes, there is absolutely wrong, and you are gonna get hurt, but there is like a lot of gray, and it is going to be a combination of knowing how your body feels and where you're feeling it so that we can make the adjustments. If you're feeling it in the wrong place, if you're ever feeling things in a joint, if you feel your knees, if you feel your hips, if you feel your back, then hey, that's not the best positioning for you. So from the side, you can see that I might be a common, right? Like I like, this doesn't feel good on my right knee. So I do coach myself and I make sure that I am sitting back a little bit more in my squat. But if you set up your feet position, deadlift, squat, RDL, and as long as you get that corkscrew, and every time, like, you should have a pattern of your setup. We've gone over it, that's the first rep. If you can get your glutes engaged for all of these movements, then you're usually in a better position. But if you feel things in joints when you're doing activities in here, it's probably not the best position for you. So I really want you to take your time, focus on your setup, no matter what the move is, even the same with the get up. We're not gonna get into that. Get your glutes to fire before you squat, before you deadlift. Feel that, and that should get you into a safer position, okay? I can go through that, right? Like, if we look through for our upper body, we like to call it like breaking the stick, the dowel, everyone over there. But that's almost the same thing. We want to like break that in half to get our lat muscles, our armpit muscles to basically engage so that we don't hurt our shoulder, right? So all of this setup, right, that's gonna be important for the floor press, that's gonna be important for a get up, anything overhead, bench press. So same with pull-ups, right? So we need to make sure that we're activating the right muscle groups prior and setting up prior to the actual movement happening, so we keep our joints safe, keep you out of pain. So if you have any questions on any of this, please send me a message. I just want to make sure that you're understanding the positioning and what we're looking for, and maybe that'll help you when you go to set up for your next rep. Please send me a message. Have a great long weekend, and I will see you guys next week.